Welcome back to the Kingsway podcast.
We're your hosts, Trevor and Ryan. Everything in this episode is going to be a question.
Everything. Question life. Question all the things. We're learning, we're growing.
Yeah.
We're doing another one of our Kingsway values. And we're excited that you're here and watching or listening. This has been a fun series.
I've really loved it.
I'm really enjoying it. It's one of those that I think is going to be really instrumental to new people getting connected into Kingsway, feeling like they can join in, know what they're joining, know what they're a part of, as well as people that have been a part of Kingsway to remind them of where we're going, what we're doing. I just think it's a refocusing thing. It's a thing that we can kind of go, okay, when we don't know what else to do, this is what we do.
Yeah.
This is where we go. And so we've traveled a good distance. We've talked about a number of things, and this, of course, is our fourth of 6 core values. And today we have one that maybe, obviously, if you've read the subtitle, you know a little bit. But I want you to go ahead, Ryan, and read the full value itself. And these are hanging in our building. This one actually is in our Java house.
Yeah.
And here it is.
Okay.
Value number 4.
We prioritize and utilize small groups of people and intimate relationships as the most effective means of growth. Sustainable life change only happens in community.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we found when we started looking at these values is there was a continual, consistent thing that kept popping into how we talked about what we wanted to do and how we talked about where we were going. And it really revolved around community.
Yeah.
It really revolved around people and these small groups of either a small group or just like a small group. And that's why we phrased it that way. That small group is not like a connect group or life group. It's an intentional phrasing.
Yeah.
There.
I really love that because a lot of the churches I've been a part of, there are small groups. Mm-hmm. They are structured. There's a small groups minister or some volunteer or somebody over it. And then everything else that's relational is just somebody else's.
Yeah.
It's like the formal small group is separated from everything else. But the way we do it at Kingsway, and by we, I mean, this is what I've been observing as a semi-new person to Kingsway.
Yeah.
Is that the small group life change mentality, it does go to weekly or bi-weekly set small groups that are meeting. Yeah. And it goes to a men's Bible study first Saturday of the month or something like that. Some Saturday in the month, I don't know. And it goes to the way the staff interacts. And it goes to random game nights that people invite each other to. And it goes to the meals we have after church on Sundays most of the time, less in the summer. But it goes to all of those things, that the small group life change thing exists. And small groups are one way we do that,
Absolutely.
Or life groups or whatever.
Well, and you see it flow into a lot of our ministries. Our high school and junior high have breakout groups that are age determined and consistent, that have leaders that lead those.
And those are one of the most focused things we do in there.
Yep.
Like the message is a thing. It's usually a little more Bible study-esque. Mm-hmm. And there's games and there's other stuff, but the small group is like the core.
Yes.
That if you are there meeting with the same 6 however many people.
Yes. And it becomes something that I think as I get older, the more I recognize that I need people around me. I need people pouring into me. I need people to ask questions to. I need other people that I can help grow. Like there's a part of like investing in that next generation that all happens in this kind of core relational communal way. And it really is that whole, what I would say the centerpiece of this value is that sustainable life change. Sustainable life change. It's if you're going to grow, if you're going to see your life and your heart and what you want to see change in your life, and you want to do it sustainably, you need to, And so there's the old African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And that thought process has been in kind of this way. And you see that with what even Jesus did, right? He didn't need 12 people. He didn't need followers to die on a cross.
He didn't need anybody.
He didn't need it. He wanted it. He likes it. He desires it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I think the longer I'm alive, the more I realize And it's a North Point statement that I think I would say it's kind of like a proverb, but you can't do life alone. Like you cannot do what I would say is, and when I say life, I don't mean like you can't live, like obviously people survive.
You can't thrive. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily what I mean.
I wouldn't say you find full life. I mean, that's truthful. You wouldn't experience all that life has to offer if you were just alone. And I think where this goes to the positive side that you were saying is it starts to branch out and it becomes something that most of the time, if I'm being honest, you experience the brokenness of being alone in the negative, right? Yeah. Or like somebody gets, and I say this all the time, if I'm the first phone call that someone in our church makes when something really tragic happens, I feel sorry for them. It's not that I'm not honored that they would call or that
you're a good phone call when something happens.
That's a great phone call, but I would hope that they would have people that are closer to them, that know their situation better, that know them on a level that they would call first. Yeah.
There were some small groups at a church I attended once that really gave me hope and promise because they did that kind of thing. There were 6 or 8 couples in this small group. It was a small group for like couples in their 40s with kids and whatever. And one of them got put in the hospital for something. And 6 couples made it there before the minister even knew about it. And that's what we're aiming for.
That's what we want. Yeah. Absolutely. And what I love is success stories in our culture, in our church, look a lot like that. Yeah. Where I find out the next week and I'm calling and they're like, oh, they already have a meal plan, set up. Yeah. People have already dropped off certain things or people have already got them on the prayer list. I'm the last, but I love coming behind that and being like, isn't it awesome being in a church?
Look at the church in action rather than look at the church paying me to do one thing because I'm one person.
And the last thing I want, and we've talked about this before, is people to think that pastors are like the professional Christians.
Yeah.
And this is one of the values that I'm like, no, if that's how we're going to be treated, you have to be connected to the pastor to sustainably grow. Yeah. You have to be connected to the pastor to be sustainably pastored. I'm like, no.
This is a Western movie trope that I've seen, 10 times in the past year. Mandalorian did it. Some other shows did it. You know that Western trope? Where in a Western show, there's always that episode that they go to a small town, they're a little farming town, but there are these bandits that make them pay money or else they'll destroy them. And then they have to sit there and train the townspeople to defend themselves and they set traps and whatever. That's in so many shows. I remember a MacGyver episode just like that. That should be the job of a pastor.
Yep.
Is to train the people near you in doing what people think they're paying you to do.
Yep.
People think they're paying you to, in the Western trope, be the gunslinger, be the whatever, who's going to defend them. But really, you're training them to defend themselves, and then you're also there.
Fish, or you're going to train them to fish. You know what I mean? Like, you can give them a fish, you're going to train them to fish. I mean, it's Timothy, right? Like, from Paul, be equippers. Like, equip people for ministry.
Okay, I want to give a little more basis for this, even though I don't think we need it. Yeah. I'm going to go 2-3 minutes Bible, 2-3 minutes theology, which is just how we think about God. Okay, 2-3 minutes Bible. Here we go. I love what you said about Jesus being able to go all the way from birth to cross without needing anybody. He just wanted them. That's so valuable. But think about the disciples themselves, even them in that community. Peter saw miracles happen in front of him. And even though he saw those things, he still walked on the water with Jesus, doubted, and sank. Not Jesus saved him, but he started to sink. He even saw all that. And then while walking on the road with Jesus, told him that he would never let him die. And Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan."
Yep.
The life change in Peter's life wasn't seeing one miracle and being changed forever. It was seeing a miracle, being changed, forgetting about it. Seeing another miracle, being changed, forgetting about it. Eating a meal with Jesus, forgetting about how Jesus acted and how he wants to be that way. And just this sustained, continual reminder of how he wants to be, how he should love.
Absolutely.
Of the model that he has in Jesus. And so that you even go to after Jesus has died and resurrected. So the book of Acts and all the epistles and all those, you see some of the main characters in Acts is Paul, a missionary, and he goes out by himself a lot. but he's never without friends. Even if he's physically without friends, like different letters he's writing, he's in prison, and he talks to friends through his letters. And his letters send people to feed him because they wouldn't do that in a Roman prison. You had to have friends and family to do that. And he was always in a community, even if when he looked around, he was alone. There were always people praying for him, taking care of him.
Yes.
And he was always trying to start communities.
And so
like
many
that.
of his epistle letters start out by, I thank God for you.
Yeah.
Like that's how they start out.
Yeah.
And it's, every time I think of you, I thank God for your ministry and what you've
Yeah.
done. I agree.
So it's never a waste between Jesus and his apostles, between Paul or Peter and the church, to invest in relationship, to invest in people, even if they're going to mess up, even if they're going to be mean to you sometimes, even if they're not going to get it right away. Sustained life change. That means life change that continues, but also continual life change. You're continually having your life change deeper and deeper and deeper.
And the fun thing is the end of that statement is it only happens.
Yeah.
Sustainable life change only happens in community.
Yeah.
And the thought process of only happens, that was a really intense thing to say. Like when you say that and you say an only or a never or an always, like those are like, you think about that. That's like, are you sure? Like, most of the times those are over exaggerations. Those are like, sometimes those are true, not always. Right.
Yeah.
And this, I would tell you,
there's some early church fathers who were monks and practiced solitude, and I think that they this is going to get me in trouble. I think they probably would have had an easier time like growing in faith, being with other people.
Yeah.
Don't fire me. But
no, and I think that it's sustainable, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's sustainable.
Like that's the thing. It's not that you can't grow in your individual relationships with God, in your personal devotions, in private prayer, and some of that. But it's the accountability.
Yeah.
It's the encouragement.
It's way harder.
It's way self-deception is so easy. It's so easy, and you need it. You need it. Ted Lasso. Have you watched any of it yet?
No, I want to so bad.
I'm not going to do too much of a spoiler. Ted Lasso is an amazing show on Apple TV.
Yeah.
Really wholesome thing. It's European, so it has some language in it. So it's not something I would say kids need to watch. But I think as an adult, it is just an amazing show. And one of the things, they're going to a dinner. Ted picks up this like lowly position guy in the business, and as they walk to where they're going to this fancy dinner, Ted literally just looks over to the guy and he goes, "Are you the type of guy that's a friend that would say if you had something in your teeth, you'd want me to tell you or not?" And he's like, "Oh, I'd want you to tell you. I want you to tell me." And he's like, "Good. Well, that suit doesn't fit you at all." And then he helps him get a better suit. And it's just a funny moment where I'm like, that's community.
Yeah.
It was loving, it was caring, and it was the guy hadn't really been fancy dinners, hadn't really ever worn a suit.
Yeah.
And Ted Lasso knew how to go, "Hey man, like let's get you something that makes you look better, that makes you feel a little better, that gets you confident, that walks in." And he didn't see it until Ted pointed it out. He didn't know what to do. I
love that.
Right. I feel like that's what community does.
Yeah.
It's not that you couldn't do some of this stuff on your own. It's an incredible gift from God to have people in your life that care enough about you to help you take the next steps that sometimes you don't even see. That iron sharpens iron, right? Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, like as one man sharpens another, so iron sharpens iron. Like that's what it's rubbing up against other people that sharpens you. And it's not conflict, it's accountability, it's help.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to go 3 minutes of theology. What were you thinking about the theology
I was
side?
going to say, I can't stop talking about Delighting in the Trinity by Michael Reeves.
You've been reading
awesome
that for a while.
little 120-page book. Basically what he does through that is tries to reframe how we think about God and our faith and all these things through the fact that he is Trinity. And what that means is that our one God is God the Father and God the Son and God the Holy Spirit. And that's a huge conversation. But one of the big points he makes at the beginning of the book is that God didn't make us because he was lonely. He's three people. He had perfect God had the perfect small group.
Yeah.
He did. And instead of him being lonely and lacking and making us to fill that lack, he was actually so overflowing with love that he was like, somebody else needs to feel what we're feeling in this community right now. And so when he created all of creation, it was a place for that community to happen, and it was other people and animals and other things to join that community.
Yep.
And that sounds a little hippie, but like, seriously though,
No,
God was there. He already had community, and he created us as an overflow of the love from his community. So we're invited not to be God, but to join God's community.
Yep.
And so that makes a lot more sense out of church small groups, lunch after church, potlucks, and that kind of stuff, out of visiting your friends when they're in the hospital, and when they're sick, and when they're incapacitated for one reason or another, and getting the meals and taking care of each other. That's just God's community overflowing to us and through us.
Absolutely. And when we say we're utilizing small groups and, and relationships, and it says intimate relationships for this purpose, and it's the thought process of saying, like, this is the intentional way that we were designed to operate. We were designed to operate, as you said before, in a perfect community of love. Yeah. That's how we were designed.
That's what God already is.
Exactly. And so it's pulling in, and it's reinforcing, and it's actually prioritizing our operating system of how things were intended to be. And I think we feel that the most, and I alluded to this earlier, we feel that the most when things go wrong. And there's a statement that I say almost every time I talk about small groups, or I talk about the need for small groups in your life, the need for accountability, the need for people to know, everything about you. And the statement that I say is not an if, it's a when. It's not an if, it's a when. It's not if you're going to need a small group. It's only a when, because everybody at some point deeply needs people that know them and can help them and can be there for them and can hold them accountable and can help them grow and can point out places of needed, I would say assessment or change. And I think when we recognize that, we know that sometimes small groups and life groups or whatever, they don't go the best, or they're not our preference, or they're not the way we want them to go. But that's just the in between the wins. Not, you know what I mean? It's like, no, just wait. And most of the time, what I find people they think they're going into a life group or a small group with the idea that I need it, not realizing that someone else actually needs them. Yeah. Way more than they need that. And it's just this obvious thing where God's going to use them in the community to actually be the hands and feet for Jesus. And that's the growth process. It's actually them being used by God in these relationships. One of the things that I think ends up happening, and I'll let you, have a couple thoughts here before we close, but one of the things that ends up happening when you become more known and when you let yourself be known, you actually let love go deeper in your life. Yeah. And to be known in a small group, to be, kind of, I would say, exposed and seen for who you really are, to talk about whether or not you're having relationship issues, financial issues, to talk about if you're having parenting issues, or even just deep personal things of doubt or depression or hurt. Yeah. And to be able to share your exciting things, and to be able to talk about new gifts, new promotions, new life, or, children, to be able to talk about awesome things that are going on. When you do that, there's a greater chance for love to invade and just be in a deeper, more enriching way. Yeah. A fuller life.
Which is what we're aiming for. That's our vision.
It really is. And it's at the center of what this is. And if I could get every person to experience what it's like to have a group like that, I'm not saying every group runs perfectly that way. Just like every family sometimes has some struggles. But I'm telling you, it's worth the pursuit, and it's worth saying this is an investment. We're going to try to figure this out. And I know we're currently, again, trying to reformat and figure out how we can get more people to experience that in some of the things that we're doing.
I love that our goal isn't attendance at a small group, but it is having that kind of thing in your life. I know it was true for me, and it was true for a lot of other people the past year and a half. So since March 2020, the pandemic started, nobody's really been able to argue I don't need a small group since then.
No.
I don't need community since then, because it made us all blatantly aware that we really, 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 really need people. Just ask people in nursing homes. Just ask anybody shut in, anybody cut off. This past year and a half really showed the need for small groups, for community, for people to share your life with. I know for me and my wife, we had some friends from college that we reconnected with in Indiana, and we love them to death. But we all really like the board game Settlers of Catan.
Yep.
And we found a way to play that over Zoom. And just the life that gave us in between ordering pizza and ordering Subway, because you can't go there. The life that brought us was huge. And with that guy, me and that guy, and two other guys I went to school with who are all in ministry in our first couple of years, and then this pandemic hits. And work's just hard, and life is hard, and things are hard. The ability to get together over Zoom once a week and just talk about what we're going through and have somebody else not solve it, but say, wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
Period. So life-giving.
It makes an immense difference. I would just say, if you're listening to this and you're a part of Kingsway's community, or if you're I would say invested in being a part of what the Kingsway's vision and values is a part, make sure that you're reaching out. We have, and we are currently actually putting in place a place on our website where you can let us know if you want to be a part of a small group.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to go check. We'll try to put that link in this video so that you can find that spot to do it. And we don't have a perfect system to figure this out, and a lot of times organically these groups start and end and kind of have ebbs and flows, just like friendships do. We like to see groups that have multi-generational things. I mean, that's the best, when you have like a Timothy, Paul, and Barnabas, kind of all in a group, where it's someone that's learning the ropes, someone that's an encourager currently where you're at, and then someone that's a little ahead of you that can pull back and reach back and encourage. So I know there's not really a format that I'd say works perfectly to make sure everybody gets one. It's a lot like friendships on the playground when you're in when you're in elementary school. You're like, how do I find a friend? I'm like, you be a good friend. Like, that's how you find friends. How do I find a small group? You start one. You start.
Sometimes
you
that's the answer.
We gotta go for it. So we're trying to help you, and we want to help others find ways to be in these groups. One of my favorite things to tell somebody is, if you have somebody that you enjoy, that you think speaks life, that you look up to, ask them to coffee. And you don't have to say like, do you want to mentor me? But like, you can say like,
why are they from Boston?
Yeah. Boston people, man.
Don't need mentors.
I need a mentor.
Hey, I'm walking.
I'm talking here. No, but I really think mentorships, most of the time, you can just say, I want to buy you coffee once a week or twice a month, and I just want to gleam. I just talk about life, share your life, and see if you can't learn. And a lot of times those are the starting grounds where you're like, what if we just did this with a couple other guys, or maybe we brought our wives, or whatever, and all of a sudden you have a small group and you didn't even know you did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it becomes the fertile soil where those kind of small, organic, intimate relationships turn into the sustainable life change that we're hoping for. Well, if you have any questions about this value, or maybe you're like, man, I love this thought, or maybe there's a part of this that was a little confusing, or you want more clarity, feel free to always email us or send us your questions.
I am officially the small groups minister. Mm-hmm. So if that website thing doesn't make sense, just email me.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll have that put together. And like we said, we're taking baby steps to try to take another stab of this. After the pandemic, it's been a whole other thing to try to figure out how to get people back into this, safely, and to do it in an effective way. But we know it's worth it, and we know we need it. And it's going to be the only way to honestly have a sustainable life change, in the future. So we're going to continue to pursue it. Hey, I love seeing that community is a part of God's character. I love seeing that community is a part of God's kingdom on earth. And I know that for each of us, it's what God designed us to do, and it's our operating system. So sustainable life change only happens in community, and we're going to continue to pursue that. So, hey, full life in Christ for everybody that wants it. That's what we're going to push for. So, hey, have a great and glorious day in the Lord. We'll see you later.
See ya.